So I'm going to do a brief tutorial on how to create an animated type logo. You can really do a number of things for this. I actually did my whole name in the example that I gave you guys in Classroom. However, if you wanted to do like an initial or something like that, you could do like your monogram, however you want your type to identify you. It could be first name, last name, or just initials that flash on the screen. That's up to you. So I am actually going to start with a new document, and I've been using the Instagram layout, which you'll find under the social tab. But if you would like to use this specifically for some other kind of format that you might be using, like say you do an Insta story or whatever formats they have here, like a YouTube profile or your Twitter feed, like use what format works for you and stick to it as you go along. So I'm sticking to Instagram. And I'm just going to do a white background. And so I'm just thinking about, do I want any kind of color to be happening here? If you do want to fill your background, you can fill your background with the gradient or the paint bucket tool. I use the gradient a lot, so I'm going to go with a gradient. You've got preset gradients, or if you want to customize your gradients, you can customize them. And maybe I'll just leave it as pink and white. The shape of your gradient is going to be here. You can reverse or lower the opacity or try any of the blending modes here. Although in this case, we don't have any blending modes because there's no other layer to blend it with. It would start to blend if you start building other layers. So drag and draw out your gradient. If you don't like that combination, you can drag it in a different direction. Maybe I'll go up and down, straight up and down here. And now I'm going to work with my type. So we've got a lot of different ways that we can incorporate type. We've been practicing our type. I might just do sort of the chaotic text arrangement, which means every letter is going to be in its own layer. So we've got to pick our fonts. Maybe I'll go with something really bold like this preview. And you're probably going to have to really crank up your type. Now, you could drag and draw out a box, or if you just click once, then your cursor is in the field. But I think I really need to go, I think 600 was working for me in some of my previous files. Let's just see how big that is. Yeah, actually that works if I center this. And so I'll center that with the move tool. And then I can go to a new layer. Actually, I'm just going to go to type because that automatically is going to make a new layer. And I'll just hide this one so I can see. And I'm thinking maybe these letters will flash on screen one at a time. So I'm doing initials for me. That's my middle initial. And actually, now that I think about it, maybe I'll make my letters overlap a little bit, and they'll just kind of flash going down the page. So this is one example, but of course, there are many variations that you could possibly end up with. Oops, I think that actually went into the same type. So now that's its own. Okay. Move it. Remember, when you're doing a chaotic arrangement, you have the ability to take each of these layers and then free transform them. So if I wanted to rotate things, then I could definitely do that. Edit, free transform. If I want to skew these a little bit. And now for the animating part, I need to double click on each layer that I want to animate. And the coding is, this is important because you're going to change the name of every layer that you have. I'm still leaving the name of the layer in there, but in the front of every layer, you will need to underscore lowercase letter a underscore. And you need to get that in every layer that you're animating. Oops, I made a mistake. Let's see if I can go back. Step forward. Yeah. So again, double click on the titles, underscore, which is really a shift, and using the underscore key, letter A, underscore, make sure you're not using the dash because that's not going to give you the correct command. This is the coding that is going to allow those frames to animate when you export as a GIF. Okay. Oops. Yeah, that's right. So, I mean, I can preview this by going to File, Export as a GIF, and I can see how that animation is flowing. That's pretty fast, so I can change the speed if I want. I can go back and copy these layers so that it happens, in a longer loop. I won't save it just because I wanted to just preview to see what I had. But remember, one really handy technique with this editing is that when you want to create more frames, I'm holding my control key down. That's going to allow me to select layers that I want to copy. So you're going to be able to duplicate and then tweak each of those layers. Maybe you want these letters to change colors. As long as I make a copy of them, I can, once they're selected, I actually hit Control and I clicked on all the layers that I wanted to copy. I can either drag them to the new layer button to make the copy of those 3 layers, or I can hit Control J. Now, the great thing is I already did my A, my underscore A underscore, so that automatically copied that and I don't have to retype that. So that's something to think about ahead of time before you copy all your layers. And now if I want to go back in and do something like change the colors or retransform these so that I have letters that move even farther than I tilted them in the first set, I can do a number of things with these. So just to review that, as you guys are building your type layers, you want to, if you want to duplicate them to create longer animations or animations that change, whatever the feature is, the color, the skewing that you're doing, it is Control, clicking on those layers to select them. They're dark gray, so now they're selected. And you can use the right click button to, I believe there's a, probably this window is hiding it, but right clicking should let you duplicate the layers. That's one way to duplicate them, or just dragging them to the new layer button duplicates them, or the key command Control J duplicates them. So now I have a second copy that I can go in and tweak and, intensify this animation in whatever way that I want. So that's just another tutorial for animating your type layers. Remember, not only do you want to do file and export as a GIF, But then you also want to save a second file, because if you need to go back and work on these, which we do, we need to go back and start adding other things like imagery to this as we work on this project in its entirety. You'll also need to save it as a PSD file. Now mine automatically opens up in Photoshop, but for you guys, that'll go to your downloads folder. So you want the PSD copy that you can go in and keep building with, and you also want the exporting as a GIF file so that you can see how that animation is flowing. So as you're working on this, you always want the two files, the GIF and the PSD. And you'll hand in both of these to me. All right, have fun with your monogram typing.